At 91, Sophia Loren finally speaks up about Carlo Ponti. From the moment she stepped onto a film set, Sophia Loren wasn't just another actress. She was a force of nature. Her eyes carried whole stories, her presence shifted the energy of a room, and her strength made even the biggest Hollywood producers pause. But behind the fame and breathtaking beauty, there was something else the world didn't quite understand. Sophia Loren lived by her own rules, and that truth would shape one of the most unexpected and fiercely loyal love stories in movie history. Hollywood, in its golden years, was a world of glamour, fame, and temptation, a place where loyalty was rare, affairs were common, and careers were often built on compromise. Yet Sophia navigated it untouched, not naive, not unaware, but unshakably grounded. Even in her 20s, she had the kind of presence that made journalists stumble over their words. Directors whispered, "She's different, she can't be controlled," and they were right. Before the Academy Awards, before magazine covers, before she became an international symbol of beauty, Sophia already refused to bend to expectations. She didn't crave fame for fame's sake, wasn't seduced by luxury, and resisted Hollywood executives who thought they could mold her. Sophia Loren knew exactly who she was. Nothing, not money, fame, or the biggest stars in the world, could change that. But here's what Hollywood couldn't understand. Behind that strength was an unwavering loyalty. Not the kind born from fear or obligation, but the kind forged by hardship, by knowing what it means to have nothing, by recognizing the true value of someone who believes in you. As her career skyrocketed, countless men wanted her, captivated by her beauty, mesmerized by her talent, but many were frustrated. Sophia didn't play the game. She didn't flirt to advance her career, entertain scandal, or allow herself to be handled. Reporters asked, "Why don't you mingle more? Why not be swept up in Hollywood life?" Sophia would smile, a soft, knowing smile, because the world didn't yet know her truth. A truth rooted not in glamour, but in survival. Not in fairy tales, but in real hardship. That truth would lead her to one man and keep her fiercely loyal for life. This is the story Hollywood never fully understood. A woman who rose to unimaginable fame without losing her sense of self. And it begins with a single question. Who was Sophia Loren really? A goddess? A star? A symbol? Or something far stronger? A woman who knew exactly what love and loyalty meant long before the cameras ever found her. In the chapters ahead, we'll uncover the journey that shaped her, the hardships that molded her, and the love that defined her. To understand why Sophia Loren stayed loyal to one man, you must first understand the woman Hollywood could never control. Before the elegance, the diamonds, the world called her Sophia Loren. She was just a small, quiet girl named Sophia from Pozzuoli, a coastal town in southern Italy where poverty sat at every doorway and hunger was a daily visitor. People see legends and imagine they were born under golden light. Sophia's early life was shaped by darkness, literal and emotional. She didn't come from privilege or fame. She came from nothing. And that lack, the lack of food, stability, and a father's love, shaped her deepest beliefs about loyalty and trust. Sophia was born into a broken beginning. Her father, Riccardo Scaloni, refused to marry her mother. He gave his children his name, yes, but nothing more. No home, no warmth, no presence. Sophia later said, "I started life as an unwanted child." Those words weren't poetic, they were literal, carving themselves into her heart. Her mother, Romilda, did her best, but life was unkind. The three of them lived in a tiny room behind her grandmother's bar, packed together, with walls so thin the street noise felt like it lived with them. No privacy, no safety, only survival. Then came the war. World War II turned Pozzuoli into a battlefield. Bombs shook the earth. Sophia spent nights hiding in tunnels beneath the city, listening to explosions like angry gods. Children should dream at night. Sophia prayed that ceilings wouldn't collapse, that her mother wouldn't be taken away, that hunger wouldn't win. "I was always hungry," she recalled. "Not occasionally, always." She grew so thin that other children called her toothpick. She didn't laugh. She learned the quiet resilience of a girl who expected little from the world except hardship. But here is the most important part of her story. In the middle of misery, Sophia learned the meaning of loyalty. Real loyalty. Not romantic yet, but the kind forged in survival. She watched her mother sacrifice everything, her youth, dreams, even pride, to protect her daughters. Romilda had once dreamed of stardom herself, a chance at Hollywood denied by her own mother. Those dreams died, but she gave every spark of hope to her daughters. Sophia absorbed it. She learned to cling to those who stand by you when life is hardest. She learned trust is precious because the world rarely offers it freely. And she learned that love, real love, is not something to toss aside, it's something to guard. Sometimes the only thing you have. As Sophia entered adolescence, she blossomed. Beauty arrived, but the hunger, fear, and childhood pain didn't disappear. They settled inside her like old ghosts. She carried the memory of ration lines, bombs rattling windows, her mother crying silently when money ran out, and a father who walked away without looking back. These scars shaped her deepest beliefs. Love must be earned. Loyalty is rare and sacred. Trust must be given carefully. So when Hollywood came calling, when producers wanted to mold her, when powerful men tried to charm her, Sophia didn't bend. She didn't break. She didn't give in. Why? Because she had already survived far more than fame. She had learned something Hollywood never understood. The world is full of people who want something from you. Only a few will stand by you with nothing to gain. That belief, forged in war's rubble and abandonment, would guide her heart for the rest of her life. The little girl from Pozzuoli grew up not with fairy tales, but truths carved from hardship. Those truths followed her into adulthood like shadows she never escaped. Yes, Sophia Loren became a legend. Yes, millions fell in love with her. But her destiny wasn't shaped in studios or film sets. It was forged in poverty, hunger, pain, and a tiny room where a mother taught her daughters what loyalty truly meant. That childhood became the compass guiding Sophia Loren toward the one love story she would defend for the rest of her life. Fate doesn't announce itself. It doesn't knock. It doesn't whisper. Sometimes, it simply walks into a room and changes everything. For Sophia Loren, that moment came on a warm, ordinary day in Rome, long before she became a global icon, long before the world placed her among the greatest beauties of all time. She was still Sophia Loren, a young woman trying to find her place with big eyes, a shy smile, and a heart shaped by the hardships of her past. She had entered a beauty contest, not out of dreams of fame, but because the prize money might help her mother. That contest led to small jobs, modeling gigs, and eventually an invitation to audition for a new film. Sophia didn't know it then, but walking into that audition room would change her life. Behind the table sat a man she had never met, but whose name carried weight in Italian cinema: Carlo Ponti. He wasn't just a producer, he was a visionary, a man who could see potential where others saw nothing. Already successful, respected, and quietly feared for his instincts, Carlo noticed something that day even he couldn't have predicted. As Sophia stepped into the room, carrying the dignity of a girl who had survived hunger and war, Carlo lifted his eyes, and in that single moment, the air shifted. Sophia later said, "It was as if he saw right through me," and she meant it. Carlo wasn't dazzled by beauty. He had seen plenty in show business. What struck him was deeper, a softness in her shyness, a strength in the way she held herself, and a spark of vulnerability that felt painfully honest. Sophia felt a strange pull too. Carlo wasn't young. He was more than 20 years older, but there was something steady, grounded, safe about him. She had been surrounded by men who wanted her looks, her charm, her promise of stardom. But Carlo? He looked at her like she was a person. He asked her questions, not about measurements or camera angles, but about her life. What makes you smile? What do you dream of? "What do you want to become?" No man had ever asked her that. Carlo offered her a small part in a film, but what lingered wasn't the role. It was the way he spoke to her, the respect in his voice, the patience in his eyes. She wasn't used to patience. The world had always rushed her, pushed her, underestimated her. Carlo didn't. Over the following months, their paths crossed repeatedly, meetings, auditions, rehearsals. At first, she thought it was coincidence. Later, she realized Carlo quietly ensured their meetings, not to pursue her, but to protect her career. He saw what she could become before anyone else did. There was no romance yet, not a word, not a gesture, but something unspoken grew. It wasn't flirtation, it wasn't desire, it was recognition. Carlo saw the frightened little girl beneath her poise. Sophia saw the kind heart beneath his serious exterior. This connection frightened them both. Sophia felt vulnerable, unused to trusting men. Yet with Carlo, she opened without realizing it. Carlo, aware of the age difference and his responsibilities as a married man, understood the impossibility of it all. But fate doesn't care about rules. One evening, after a long day on set, Carlo offered her a ride home. She hesitated, but something in his voice made her trust him. They drove through quiet streets, no music, no flirting, just conversation. Real, gentle conversation. Sophia later described it as the first time she felt truly understood, not as a rising actress, not as a beautiful face, but as Sophia, the girl who survived Pozzuoli, the girl who had learned to protect her heart at all costs. When he dropped her off, she thanked him softly. Carlo nodded. Neither said it aloud, but both felt it, the undeniable pull between them. A pull neither invited, fully understood, or could resist. A quiet spark before the fire, the beginning of a love story that defied Hollywood, defied the church, and stretched across decades. She met him as a shy girl trying to survive. He met her as a man searching for meaning in a world of illusions. And in that shared moment, their destinies silently intertwined. The day Sophia Loren met Carlo Ponti, her life changed not with fireworks, not with drama, but with a single look that neither could ever forget. Their love story didn't begin in passion. It began in understanding, and that is why it endured. Chapter 4. A love Hollywood did not approve of. Love stories in Hollywood often glitter with champagne and bright lights. Sophia Loren and Carlo Ponti's love, it was born in quiet moments and tested under the fiercest storms. By the time their connection became undeniable, one truth stood in the way, a truth heavier than fame, harsher than gossip, more complicated than anything Sophia had faced. Carlo Ponti was married. Not happily, not lovingly, but officially, legally, undeniably married. In 1950s Italy, a Catholic country where divorce was illegal, this reality turned their growing affection into an international scandal. Sophia was rising fast, her beauty lighting up screens across Europe. Hollywood wanted her, the world adored her, but as whispers spread about Carlo, everything changed. Reporters circled, cameras followed, church officials condemned, studios held their breath, terrified the scandal might ruin their newest star. Carlo, nearly 22 years older, tried to shield her. But how do you protect someone from the entire world? They hadn't even kissed when rumors began. Their connection alone was enough to spark outrage. In Italy, the Catholic Church viewed divorce as a sin. Carlo's marriage, though emotionally dead, was legally binding. And the idea that a famous producer might leave his wife for a young actress ignited fury. The press labeled Sophia a homewrecker. Priests preached against her. Gossip magazines called her immoral, dangerous, cursed. For a girl who had craved stability, the accusations cut deeply. She wasn't a seductress. She had simply found kindness in a world that rarely offered it. Hollywood didn't care about the truth.
Studios and publicists pressured her to deny everything. "Don't risk your career for a man you can't marry," they warned. But Sophia had survived war, poverty, and heartbreak. She wasn't about to abandon the one person who had believed in her from the beginning. Carlo loved her, quietly, respectfully, completely. And for the first time in his life, he refused to hide behind duty. He would fight for her, no matter what. In 1957, Carlo attempted a divorce in Mexico, a desperate act driven by love. For a moment, hope flickered. He and Sophia were legally married abroad, but Italy refused to recognize it. The church condemned it. Newspapers erupted. A terrifying letter warned that if they returned to Italy, they could be charged with bigamy. Sophia later said, "We felt like criminals, even though our only crime was wanting to be together." They fled Italy, living in exile in France, constantly watched and judged. Careers suffered, reputations were torn, yet they stayed together. Sophia remembered the abandoned girl she once was. She vowed never to walk away from someone who loved her, not as her father had walked away from her mother. Carlo risked everything, his standing, his career, his name, to be with her. He fought for years to make their love legal, to give Sophia the life and respect she deserved. Friends warned her to leave. Hollywood whispered she could do better. Italy called her every cruel name imaginable. But Sophia stayed. Not naive, not trapped. Because in Carlo, she found something no spotlight could offer. Safety, stability, loyalty, a love that didn't waver. Their love story wasn't glamorous. It wasn't easy. It wasn't even legal. But it was real. Hollywood didn't approve. Italy didn't approve. The church didn't approve. Sophia and Carlo didn't need approval. They needed each other. And in the end, that was enough. Powerful enough to outlast scandal, judgment, and the world's disapproval. Powerful enough to become one of cinema's most enduring love stories. Fame is a test, a dazzling test, dressed in diamonds, applause, and temptation. And for Sophia Loren, now one of the most breathtaking women on earth, temptation was everywhere. By the late 1950s, Sophia had transformed from a shy girl of Pozzuoli into an international phenomenon. Hollywood adored her. Europe idolized her. Photographers chased her. Directors lined up to work with her. Movie studios called her the future of cinema. Her face graced every magazine cover. Her name dominated every headline. Her beauty topped every list. But fame never comes alone. It brings attention, some flattering, some dangerous. For Sophia, the most explosive temptation came in the form of one of Hollywood's most beloved stars, Cary Grant. Tall, elegant, charming. He represented everything the world believed a romantic hero should be. During the filming of Houseboat in 1958, Cary became completely, openly captivated by Sophia. He wasn't subtle. He wasn't shy. He wasn't confused about what he wanted. He wanted her. All of her. This wasn't gossip. It was documented truth. Cary wrote her letters pleading to marry her. Not someday, not privately, immediately. On set he whispered, "If you marry me, I will cherish you forever." In one letter he wrote, "I think I love you. I want to marry you." No woman in Hollywood would have been immune to such devotion. No young actress, barely in her 20s, surrounded by power and beauty, would have easily turned away from such devotion. But Sophia did. Why? Because her heart was already taken, completely, fiercely, irrevocably, by Carlo Ponti. Yet she was torn. Here she was, caught between two worlds. The world that had shaped her future and the man who had shaped her destiny. Hollywood offered glamour. Carlo offered stability. Cary represented fantasy. Carlo offered a promise. Sophia's childhood had taught her something fame never could. The world's attention is fleeting. Real loyalty, trust, and love are almost impossible to find. She loved Cary's kindness, admired his elegance, respected his heart, but she didn't belong to him. Carlo had been the first to see her potential, to treat her as a person rather than a beautiful novelty. He offered protection, structure, belief, and she trusted him. When Carrie confessed his love, Sophia didn't react with excitement or ego. She reacted with fear. Fear of hurting Carlo, fear of betraying herself, fear of repeating the cycle of abandonment she had known in childhood. Loyalty wasn't a romantic ideal, it was survival. Hollywood watched, producers whispered, reporters speculated. Why would Sophia Loren choose an older married man over Cary Grant? Because the world saw glamour, Sophia saw truth. Carlo knew her scars, her fears, her hopes. Cary knew the woman, but not the girl. Sophia later confessed, "Carlo gave me stability, protection, warmth. Cary Grant gave me beauty and kindness, but not a life I could depend on." She wasn't choosing between two men. She was choosing between two futures. Even in the blinding glow of fame, she remembered who she was. A girl who had slept in cramped rooms during wartime, who had stood in food lines, who had promised never to abandon someone who truly loved her. Loyalty wasn't a romantic ideal, it was survival. So she stayed with Carlo. Hollywood judged her, the church condemned her. Cary adored her. She stayed because loyalty was not convenience, it was gratitude, trust, and a childhood full of broken promises. In a world offering everything, fame, fortune, adoration, Sophia Loren did something rare. She chose love over glamour, loyalty over temptation, a future she could trust over a fantasy she could not hold. That choice, made in her 20s, defined her life. Fame can give you everything. Only love can give you a home. And for Sophia Loren, home would always be Carlo. Love in Hollywood often comes with headlines, whispers, and flashing cameras. For Sophia Loren and Carlo Ponti, love came with something far heavier: danger, scandal, and legal chaos that could ruin lives. By the late 1950s, their relationship had already survived temptation, gossip, and judgment. But Sophia and Carlo wanted more than secrecy. They wanted commitment. In 1957, they made a decision that would shock Italy, scandalize Hollywood, and test their loyalty. They married in secret. It wasn't a grand ceremony. No church, no relatives, no photographers. It was a quiet, almost desperate act of devotion. They traveled to Mexico, one of the few countries where Carlo, still married, could legally remarry. Away from cameras and judgment, Sophia and Carlo exchanged vows. The ring on her finger was small, but the promise it represented was enormous, a vow to stand by each other no matter what the world threw at them. For a moment, it felt like victory. The world didn't exist. It was just Sophia and Carlo, two people who had fought for love long enough to finally call it their own. But the world wasn't done. Back in Italy, the Catholic Church and government refused to recognize the marriage. In their eyes, Carlo was still bound to his first wife. Sophia, the rising star, was still the woman everyone whispered about. Headlines were merciless. Sophia Loren, bride of a married man? Scandal in Italian cinema. The actress who defied the church. The Italian government declared the marriage null and void. Legal documents were shredded. Vows were erased. The couple that had felt untouchable in Mexico suddenly found themselves under attack. Imagine believing you have everything: love, loyalty, hope, only to have the world tell you it doesn't count. Sophia could have walked away, returned to fame, and left scandal behind. Directors would have made her their queen. Cary Grant and others still admired her, but she refused. She stayed. She stayed because she knew the truth. She stayed because loyalty, learned from childhood, could not be abandoned when times grew hard. She stayed because Carlo had been the one constant in a cruel world. The months that followed were a storm. Newspapers printed every private detail. Church officials spoke against her. Critics called her immoral. Even colleagues whispered warnings. Yet Sophia and Carlo endured. They lived quietly in exile, moving between France and Italy, avoiding public attention. Each step was a calculated act of survival for love and career. But the quiet moments between them were full of tenderness. Small gestures, whispered conversations, intimacy forged under pressure. Carlo fought to legitimize their marriage in the eyes of the law, risking reputation, money, and career. Sophia supported him silently, becoming his shield as much as he was hers. Their secret marriage became more than a legal struggle. It symbolized what they would endure for each other. While the world judged, they held one another. While the church condemned, they whispered comfort. While reporters speculated, they quietly built a life together. Years would pass before their union was officially recognized in Italy, but Sophia remained steadfast. She could have chosen safety, fame, or freedom from scandal, but she didn't. For Sophia, love was never about convenience or optics. It was loyalty, trust, the courage to stand by the one person who had never abandoned her. Looking back, Sophia often said the secret marriage was defining, not for legality, but for revealing her values. It showed a woman unafraid of scandal, judgment, or the fight for love. They married in secret. They were annulled by law. They faced scandal, scrutiny, exile. But through it all, Sophia stayed. The world could take everything, but it could not take Carlo, and she would never leave him. Sophia Loren, a name that sparkles like diamonds, a face that has graced magazine covers for decades, a woman whose presence commands attention. Yet for all the admiration she received, there was something the public never truly understood. Sophia Loren was misunderstood. From the beginning of her love story with Carlo Ponti, rumors swirled. Critics whispered she was controlled, living in someone else's shadow. Gossip magazines claimed she was trapped, suggesting her devotion was born of fear or convenience. Some even insisted she viewed Carlo as a father figure, a reductive explanation that ignored the complexity of her heart. The world loved to simplify her. Sophia was young, beautiful, and breathtaking, qualities that some believed required a straightforward explanation. They could not imagine that a woman so stunning could also be fiercely independent, equally vulnerable and strong. And when she chose Carlo, older and entangled in legal complications, the public's imagination went wild. "People have always wanted to put me in a box," Sophia admitted in later interviews. "They wanted to say I was controlled, that I didn't make my own choices, but that was never true. I chose Carlo every day because I wanted to, not because I had to." That choice was remarkable, not just for the romance itself, but for the courage it took to withstand public scrutiny. Being a rising star while devoted to a man the world considered scandalous was no small feat. Every headline, tabloid article, and critique tested her resilience. Many assumed her devotion stemmed from naivety. After all, she had grown up poor, hungry, and abandoned in Puzioli. How could a woman from such hardship make informed choices about love? How could she resist the temptations of fame, wealth, and adoration surrounding her? The truth, Sophia explained, lay in her upbringing. She had known abandonment, instability, and loss from an early age. She understood that loyalty and trust were not abstract ideas, they were survival. In Carlo, she found someone who loved her, respected her, and offered a partnership that mirrored the stability she had longed for as a child. To me, Carlo was not a father figure, Sophia insisted. He was a man who respected me, who stood by me, who loved me in a way I had never known. I didn't need saving, I needed understanding, and he gave that to me. The public preferred a simpler story, a beautiful young actress controlled by an older man. It fit neatly into Hollywood stereotypes and allowed critics to examine her independence without examining her depth. Sophia found humor in these misconceptions, joking about the absurdity of the rumors. Yet behind the laughter was truth. She made her choices consciously, aware of the consequences. She was neither naive nor manipulated. Her loyalty reflected her values, not weakness. Her actions proved it. Despite scrutiny, Sophia pursued daring roles that showcased her talent and intelligence. She never allowed public perception to define her, and in her personal life, her devotion to Carlo remained unwavering. They navigated legal battles, exile, scandals, and public opinion together. Her love was never surrender. It was a partnership built on respect and shared experience. Peel back the media myths, and you see the real Sophia Loren, a woman who faced fame and judgment without compromising her principles, who chose her life consciously, and who understood that loyalty is strength, not weakness. Sophia Loren was misunderstood by the public, but she understood herself perfectly. That self-awareness, that commitment to her values, defined not only her love story, but her legacy. Because a woman who knows her heart cannot be defined by gossip or judgment. Sophia Loren wasn't a myth. She was a force, and the world could never fully understand why she stayed loyal. Not because she was controlled, but because she chose love on her own terms. Loyalty is often misunderstood as obligation to glamour, money, or convenience. But Sophia Loren's loyalty to Carlo Ponti was none of those things. It was deeper, forged in pain, survival, and a lifetime of understanding what love truly means. For over 50 years, Sophia stood by Carlo's side. Half a century of devotion that Hollywood, Italy, and the world watched with fascination and bewilderment. Few understood why she never wavered. The answer is simple and profound. Carlo saw her, not just the face, the rising star, or the beauty that dazzled the world, but Sophia, the little girl from Puzioli, who survived hunger, abandonment, and war. She had learned early that the world could be cruel, unpredictable, and heartless. She longed for someone who would never leave her. "I loved Carlo," Sophia once said. Not because he was powerful, not because he was older, not because he could give me everything the world promised. I loved him because he gave me trust. He gave me constancy. He gave me a love I had never known as a child. Carlo became her safe harbor. And for someone who had lived through war, poverty, and abandonment, safety is everything. Her loyalty went beyond security. It was gratitude. She had been given a rare gift, a man who loved her, not for fame, beauty, or image, but for who she truly was. She nurtured it, protected it, and never allowed herself to squander it. Letters reveal the intimacy of their connection. One read, "I have everything I could ever want, because I have you. Everything else is fleeting. Everything else is a shadow. You are my light." It was a love built on respect, trust, and shared history. Yes, temptations surrounded her. Hollywood adored her, and countless men admired her. But Sophia never wavered. Why? Because Carlo was her home. You don't stay with someone out of habit. You stay with someone who makes life better, who makes you a better person, who sees your scars and doesn't flinch. That is what Carlo did. That is what I could never forget. Their connection wasn't built on fairy tales. It was built on shared struggles, mutual respect, and a commitment to weather life's storms together. When their marriage was annulled, when the press condemned them, when Hollywood whispered she could do better, she did not falter. Sophia understood what many do not. Loyalty is not weakness. Standing by someone trustworthy in a chaotic world is one of the bravest acts a human being can perform. Even in her later years, she spoke of their love with clarity. "Carlo made me feel safe in a world that was constantly trying to define me, judge me, control me. That is why I never left him. Not because I had to, not because I was afraid, but because I wanted to, and because I could never imagine a life without him." It was a conscious choice, made daily, not out of convenience, but with full awareness of risks, pressures, and criticisms. Sophia Loren's loyalty is not a romanticized Hollywood myth. It is the story of a woman who lived through abandonment, hunger, and war, who found someone worthy of her heart, and who had the courage to protect that love for over 50 years. Carlo was not perfect,
Life was not without conflict, but their love was real, enduring, and fiercely protected. Love is not about perfection. It's about choosing the same person every day, through joy, hardship, and time's passage. Sophia stayed loyal because she loved consciously, fiercely, and completely. She stayed because Carlo believed in her before the world did. She stayed because she had finally found someone worth everything she had to give. In that loyalty, Sophia Loren found not just love, but a life fully lived, a heart completely safe, and a legacy enduring far beyond fleeting headlines. Because loyalty, rooted in truth and heart, is not just romantic, it is eternal. Every love story has an ending. Some are sudden, some quiet, some heartbreaking. For Sophia Loren and Carlo Ponti, their final chapter was a testament to a lifetime of devotion, trust, and loyalty. Carlo Ponti, the man who had believed in Sophia when the world doubted her, who guided her through scandals, temptations, and the blinding glare of fame, grew older. Time, relentless for all, began to show even on a man who once seemed indestructible. For decades, Sophia and Carlo had weathered storms together. Exiles, annulments, rumors, and the world turning against them. Yet none of those challenges compared to the slow, inevitable reality of mortality. In the quiet of their home, away from cameras and gossip, Sophia never left Carlo's side. She cared for him with the same tenderness that had defined their love from the very beginning. She understood him, not just as a husband, but as the man who had shaped her life and devoted herself entirely to him in those final years. Friends and family noticed something extraordinary. Sophia's loyalty had not waned, it had grown stronger. She became his anchor, his constant, the unwavering presence in a world that could offer him nothing but time and memory. When Carlo became ill, Sophia was there. When his steps slowed, she walked beside him. When he needed comfort, she held his hand, whispered to him, and reminded him, silently and without words, that he had been loved fully and completely. "I promised I would stay with him," Sophia said in one of her later interviews, "and I kept that promise." Carlo Ponti passed away in 2007. He had lived a remarkable life, successful and surrounded by love, but what truly defined his final years was Sophia. She had been with him until his final breath, honoring every moment of their shared decades. In the moments after his passing, Sophia did not retreat into grief alone. She remembered the life they had built, the films, the journeys, the challenges, the laughter, the whispered conversations in the middle of the night. Most of all, she remembered the promise she had kept. The world had often misunderstood her choices. They called her controlled, judged her for marrying a man older and complicated, whispered that her devotion was naive or blind. But in those final moments, it was clear that her loyalty was not weakness, it was love in its purest, most human form. She had chosen Carlo not out of need or obligation, but because she had found a love worth standing by, and she honored it every single day until the very end. Sophia Loren kept her promise. She loved him through fame, scandal, temptation, and finally through death. In doing so, she showed the world the extraordinary power of loyalty, the depth of true devotion, and the enduring strength of a love that lasts a lifetime and beyond. Till his final breath, Carlo Ponti was not alone. And that, more than anything else, was the real story of Sophia Loren's unwavering heart. Sophia Loren's story is more than the tale of a Hollywood icon. It is a story of love, loyalty, and courage. A story that defies the fleeting, superficial narratives that dominate the world of fame. In an industry built on glamour, temptation, and the pursuit of the next big thing, Sophia chose differently. She chose faithfulness over convenience, love over opportunity, loyalty over fame. Sustaining that choice for over 50 years is what makes her story extraordinary. Hollywood thrives on drama. Breakups, affairs, and scandals dominate headlines. Relationships are often treated as disposable, like props in a movie set. Yet Sophia's life reminds us that real love is not about headlines. It is about consistency, respect, and courage. From a childhood marked by hunger, abandonment, and hardship, she learned the value of trust. From a world that tried to mislabel her, she learned self-awareness. Through every challenge with Carlo Ponti, the scandals, temptations, and legal battles, she demonstrated a devotion that was neither naive nor weak, but profoundly human. Her story teaches that loyalty is not passive. It is an active choice, made over and over, even when the world pressures you otherwise. Sophia did not stay with Carlo because it was easy. She stayed because she believed in him, respected him, and valued the rare gift of being truly understood and loved. There is a lesson here for everyone, not just for those in love, but for anyone striving to navigate life with integrity. In a world that constantly tests patience, judgment, and values, Sophia Loren's life is a reminder that standing by what is right, by those who truly matter, is a kind of courage all its own. Her story also reminds us that fame and success do not define happiness. Hollywood gave Sophia beauty, acclaim, and adoration, but none of that could replace the steadfast love she shared with Carlo. True fulfillment comes not from the world's recognition, but from the depth of connection we cultivate with those who matter most. Even decades after Carlo's passing, Sophia Loren's legacy endures not just through her films, but through the example of her life. She showed that love can survive temptation, loyalty can thrive amidst scandal, and devotion can transcend time, adversity, and the pressures of fame. Reflecting on her story is not just nostalgia or admiration, it is inspiration. It is a call to reconsider what we value. Are we standing by the people who matter most? Are we making choices guided by integrity, love, and loyalty? Sophia Loren's life teaches that love is measured not in grand gestures or fleeting moments, but in the quiet, persistent decisions made every day. The kind of love she lived is rare in Hollywood, and perhaps in the world, but it is possible. Her story still matters because it proves that devotion, trust, and courage are not just ideals, they are choices we can embody. For anyone tempted to compromise what truly matters, Sophia Loren's life is a beacon of hope, proof that real love can endure, flourish, and leave a legacy far greater than fame itself. Sophia Loren didn't just act on screen. She lived a role that required strength, loyalty, and heart. And the world will continue to learn from her for generations to come.